Let me say first that on a personal note, many of you know what some of the trials that we've gone through in my own family, but I spoke to my wife Elizabeth this morning. She's doing great. That's the good news. She's doing very well. And I know some of you saw this, but she had a little dust up with Ann Coulter, and I was kind of proud of her about that. I want to say a word about the system in Washington that I think is broken. It is rigged. It is rigged against the interest of you and ordinary Americans. Your voices are not heard in Washington. And it's rigged by entrenched interests, big corporations. There are lobbyists that stand between you and the change that you need, that stand between you and the legislation that you need. They stand as an obstacle to what America needs. And there's been a lot of conversation over the course of this presidential campaign about electability. And I'm here to tell you, because I've heard them over and over, that crowd in Washington, the pundits, the experts, all the Washington insiders, they think if you don't take money from lobbyists and corporate lobbyists in Washington, you can't be elected President of the United States. I don't take their money, and I will be elected President of the United States. I will go everywhere in this country and campaign, because what I believe is that when I'm elected President of the United States, I'm not the President of the blue states, and I'm not the President of the red states. I'm the President of the United States of America, and that includes every single person in this country. People who live in small towns and small communities in this country, they deserve a voice. You deserve a voice. The people that I grew up with, my parents still live in the town that I grew up in, they deserve a voice. That's what this is about. And you will never have a voice unless and until the Democrats have a candidate who understands your lives, the Democrats have a candidate who will campaign everywhere in America, who won't give up on your part of America in places just like this all across this country, a candidate who actually believes that we have to have the strength and the backbone to stand up against these entrenched interests in Washington, D.C. You know, I don't think you can change this system and be part of it. I think you have to be willing to take it on. I mentioned earlier that I don't take money from lobbyists in Washington. I never have. I'm proud of that. Others do. Others believe that other Democratic candidates do, and believe that you can take their money and sit at a table and negotiate with them. I think that's wrong. I think you have to have the independence and the strength to stand up to these people. Why don't we have universal health care in America today? I know why we don't. We don't have it because of drug companies, insurance companies, and their lobbyists in Washington, D.C. That's why we don't have universal health care. So what is it that we actually need to do? Universal health care. Let me tell you the first thing I intend to say to the Congress and to every member of my cabinet when I'm sworn into office. I'm going to say, this is January 2009. I'm going to say, come July of this year, if you have not passed universal health care for America, you lose your health care. My plan costs $90 to $120 billion a year, and I pay for it by getting rid of Bush's tax cuts for people who make over $200,000 a year. What are we going to do about the extraordinary economic inequality that still exists in America? We're becoming a country made up of a few rich people and everybody else. That's the way it is. We got the worst inequality we've had since the Great Depression. You know this. Most families in America, middle-class families, your income's not going up, and the cost of everything you spend money on is going up. Everything. Health care, gas, college tuition, whatever. So you're squeezed harder and harder every single day. On top of that, we got 37 million people who wake up every day in America worried about feeding and clothing their children. And this is not okay. It is not okay that in the richest nation on the planet, we have millions of people literally worried about survival. It says something about America and our character, what we're willing to do about it. Some of you know that I announced my presidential campaign for the 9th Ward of New Orleans. I'm actually going to New Orleans when I leave here this afternoon. But what's happening there is heartbreaking. And I'll tell you my view about it. We don't need a surge in Baghdad. We need a surge in New Orleans. We need to help our people who are struggling in New Orleans. We ought to make it easier for kids to go to college. Bush has taken, last year, he took $7 billion out of the federal budget for financial aid for kids to go to college. This is insanity. We ought to make it easier for kids to go to college. Here's my idea. We say to every young person in America, you graduate from high school, qualified to be in college, and commit to work when you're there. We don't give it to them. They got to work at least 10 hours a week. But you work 10 hours a week, America pays for your tuition and books. Very simple. I don't think George Bush has injured our reputation in the world. I think he's destroyed it. And I think America has so much work to do to reestablish ourselves as the leader that we should be. And the starting place is ending this mess of a war in Iraq. It has got to be brought to an end. On the first day that I'm president, I will close Guantanamo, which I think is a national embarrassment. The idea that the United States of America would hold people against their will with no hearing, no nothing, to determine whether they should be held, that's not America. Secret prisons, we're going to put a stop to that. No more illegal spying on the American people. No more torture or condoning of torture. We can create one America where everybody has a chance. We can create one America where a little boy who grew up in mill towns in North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia can actually be president of the United States of America. That's the country I want to live in. I don't want to live in a country where your destiny is controlled by the family you're born into or the color of your skin or where you live. That's not America. That's not what America can be. If you want to live in a moral, fair, and just America where everybody has a chance, and you want to see America once again leading in a moral and just world, you have to do it with me together. And brothers and sisters, together we're going to do it. Thank you all very much for coming, and I'll be happy to take your questions now. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.